So now we're going to open the front of this t-shirt here. So what we're going to do, because it's sewn together here, we're going to go up to our edit sewing tool. We click on that, and here we right click on the sewing, any line, and in the front, and we delete. So when we simulate, it's going to open out like this. Now we want to put the button and plackets and the buttonhole placket. So what we're going to do is we're going to add like an extra 2 centimeter panel of material, okay, like a vertical panel of material. So we're going to add it on to this part here. I'll show you here, okay, along here and along here. So it's either we create this 2 cm panel, or what we can do is we can offset. Do is we The length of this is 65.01. Okay, so we go up to our rectangular box, we click here, and we want the height. It's like vertical, okay? So we said it's 65.01. And then the width, we want 2. So we click OK, and here we've created our panel for the buttons and buttonholes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select it, move it closer. Of course, let's find it in the 3D window. And this panel, what we're going to do is we're going to make it a symmetric pattern, a symmetric copy of it. So we're going to right click, and we do just a symmetric pattern of this. So we have both, and whatever we do on one can reflect on the other. And then we're going to just sew it in place. Let's see, we can just sew this here with our segment sewing. And then we do the other one here. We move it in place, and we sew that with the segment sewing. And we simulate. And here they are. So here we have both panels. Now we can always use the remember the strengthening feet here if the material it's too floppy, but I think it's okay for now, so we'll just leave it as is. Now we want to add the buttons here, and what we're going to do is here in the object browser, just click on the button icon, and here you'll see default button style. So if you notice here in the 2D window, and if you notice in the 3D window, there is this dot in the 3D window, and that's where the first button is going to begin. So in the 3D window, that dot shows exactly where the first button's going to start. Now, let's begin, because remember on the button, the color stand, okay, the one that goes at the top, where the color sits on it, that's also going to have a button. So, okay, let's just, uh, the button, let's see. Another thing to remember is that now the button has to be placed on this part, okay? The right the right side, okay? The right placket. So the buttons have to be placed there. So here, this is not the right placket. So I'm just gonna have to, with my select move tool, I'm just gonna switch. So in my 2D window, I have to switch. Let's see if it's the correct thing. Okay, yes, now it's okay. So I've highlighted the right one. Now, let's go back to our button icon here. We've clicked on it. And before you click here, because now look, if you click here, you're going to have a button. And this button was a default button. So if you click, you get the buttons like that. And you can even place them manually and shift them or whatever. Let's Control Z to undo that function. Now, if you right click, okay, I'm placing this in the middle, but if you want to get the middle, what you can do beforehand is you can, let's go back here. Let's go to our add a point tool and we can put a point here, okay? You right click and we uniform split it. So we know exactly where the middle of this panel is. So that's being more precise. You want to know exactly where it is. So now let's go back to our button icon. And here again, we can just orient it in this way. So we're in the middle and okay, that's good enough. So what we do is we right click and when we right click, this dialog box comes up. So this dialog box comes up and there are a lot of options here. Now, don't bother about this left, right, up, down because what it is, it's the values to shift the position of the button to the left by how many centimeters or millimeters, to the right, up and down. So that's what this is. So we can practice with this later on. What you need to know is the interval between buttons, okay? For example, the space between this one and the other one I'm going to be putting here and the other one I'm going to be putting here. This one here, you can space them evenly with interval. Then we need to know how many buttons you want to put. Okay, 6, 7, this is the number of buttons you're going to be putting. So let's oh, there is angle, and the angle just talks about the line of buttons, which angle they're going to go in. For example, this minus 90, it means that they're going in this vertical line. If I were to put 0, they would just, or 90, they would just go elsewhere. For example, diagonally, horizontally. So this here, keep it at this value. Now, let's see, for example, the interval between buttons, maybe we want it to be about, let's say 8 centimeters or so. So we keep the 8. And let's check out the number of buttons we're going to be putting. So if you look in the 3D window, as I change this value here, you then see the buttons, okay, the way they're spaced. A good thing would be to do is to, before you begin this, you just make sure you can see the whole garment because then you can understand better the look. Okay, let's cancel everything and let's put this avatar here in a proper position so that you can understand much better how these buttons are going to be placed and how they're going to look. So let's go back again. We go back here. We're going to right about here. Yes. I would say, okay, so this is the middle. Okay, I'll right click. And there again, we're going to, button starts here, this point here. And the interval, let's say, okay, first, no, pause. Okay, we did about 8. And let's see how many buttons we can put. 2, 3, 4, and we continue like that. And you then have to assess, try to understand if this is the way you want to place the buttons. Okay, for me, I'm going to use less buttons, but I'm going to make the interval like 9. Okay, so there are going to be how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 buttons. Remember here, when you click OK, you'll see it show up. And so I've placed these buttons here along 9 buttons. So then if you're satisfied, you click OK. Remember, you can always edit your buttons in the object browser when you click on default button style. So we're going to click OK. And here, our top button, there it is. Now, the buttons for me here, they're just too big. So I'm definitely going to edit them. So let me begin doing this before I create any buttonholes. So I'm going to click on my default button style in the object browser. And I'm going to check out in the property editor the width of the button. So I'm going to put 1. Just click anywhere in the window and you see that it becomes really, now it's really small, too small. So I'm going to go back again. 1 is just too small. I'm going to do 1.50. So it's going to be 1.50. Click anywhere in the window and okay. I guess maybe slightly smaller. So there again, I'm going to click 1.30. Okay. And I think this is good enough. Now here we have our buttons, and what we're going to do is we're going to create these buttonholes. And remember, the buttonholes now, you can always create them manually. Also the buttons, you put them manually. You can do this program is very intuitive. So it shows you there are a lot of guidelines with numbers that you can follow and all that. Anyway, with these buttons here, I can just select one button and do Control A. When I do Control A, it's the keys for selecting all the buttons together. So with all these buttons selected, here I can proceed. I'm going to right click on one of the buttons and I'm going to duplicate it to the symmetric pattern, or duplicate as buttonhole to symmetric pattern. So when you duplicate as buttonhole to symmetric pattern, remember the pattern, this panel has to be symmetric. Otherwise it won't be duplicated. I click on that and here we have our buttonholes. So what we do now, we go to the object browser and we click on the buttonhole icon. It's this one. Now, this buttonhole icon, I need to make these buttonholes smaller because they're just too wide. So, um, remember this, I had selected 1.30. Now the buttonhole should be some millimeters more than the button. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the default buttonhole here, and we need to put the width. So here, the width, we click on this, and I would say I'm going to add at least 3 or 4 millimeters. So I'm going to say like a 1.33, 1.34. Let's see, 1.34. Click anywhere in the window, not on the pattern. And here it's smaller, and these buttons can fit. So now it's time that now we have everything. If you want to further edit, add the colors, you know how to do that. Now it's time to button this garment. Remember from the previous videos, you fasten the button. Okay, how to fasten the button. So before we do that, let's do like, okay, let's double check, because remember this has to go on top of this. Okay, so this one has to go on top of this. A way to make sure that you don't have too much clipping and the material going all wonky going into each other is to set a layer. Okay, you can set this as a layer. To set it as a layer, though you'd have to remove the editing, because remember when I click on this one's highlighted, so then I'd be setting both to the same layers. But the thing is, this layer, when you set a layer, it means one goes on top of the other, and we put a number that's higher, because, for example, the one that goes on top will be 1. The one that goes on top of that, it's going to be 2, and so on. So what you want to do is we can just remove the editing from both. To do that now, you just select it, right click. Oh, okay, I think we could just select them like this. Okay, right click, and we can remove linked editing. When I remove the linked editing, they're not linked anymore. If I click on this, you see this is not highlighted. Now I can proceed to put my layer, and I'm going to put it as 1. And this is just practice for when you have garments with multiple layers. Now, as I've said in the previous videos, you see that this is green. It just shows me that if you click up here, it shows 3D colors. Okay, so if I don't want to see it, if I don't want to see it, I know the layer is on, I just do like this. I click on layer, and then I really don't see it, but the layer is there. So here I would have less problems when I button. Now let's go and fasten this button. So we can just go back to our button icon here, fasten button here, and we begin. So here we have the first one. Okay, we go over. Okay, now let's simulate, see what comes of it. Sometimes you have to give it a minute for it to work itself out. Sometimes you have to pull and tug a little. So, okay. So we've simulated and everything seems to be in place. Okay, let's this. Okay. So now you see that this is buttoned up. Of course, you know how to unbutton, move buttons, edit buttons already. So for now, this is buttoned up in a proper way. Remember, we can do a lot of things. We do top stitching and all that. But I just wanted to show you how you can, especially in a man's shirt, how to place the buttons. Now, this one video is going to be going on for a long time because going on for long. So I think I'm going to see you in the next video. And in the next video, we are going to begin placing the color stand and the color so we can complete this shirt. This is a short sleeve shirt we're going to be doing. So for now, see you in the next video.